everything has a dark side. Pretty privilege is no exception. Beautiful women are destined for oftentimes fatal ends. The idea here is that society views women as either a being of light or a creature of darkness. A beautiful woman is only for viewing pleasure. This asserts the idea that the experience of being a beautiful woman is a haunting reminder of how beauty can be tragically cemented as the experience of only being perceived but rarely understood. Malena only speaks very sparsely throughout the film, as much of the dialogue is between other characters' perceptions of her beauty, and as a result her fated burden. Since the story of Malena is told through the eyes of others instead of her own choosing, we perceive her through Renato's literal and metaphoric voyeuristic behavior. As you noticed, Malena's scenes with the cross are very much emphasized, as the cross rests in the middle of her chest, which is a powerful reminder of her reality, which is the ability to enchant us with her beauty and bear the cost. The effect that beauty has on others can either be intoxicating or toxic. Proximity to beauty is something that men desire, yet women despise. The entire town watches her, and she enchants the men into awe, while the women complain beneath their breath in the whispered language of jealousy. He would hope that his self-esteem and status is raised in the eyes of the town, while the women distance themselves from her, ostracizing her further in order to preserve what little self-esteem they have left. The metaphoric worship of Malena is made manifest in this one scene. While she is not considered a pious symbol throughout the film, she is indeed worshipped by the men. She was elected to adorn this religious garb and paraded in the town square. She didn't make the choice. Being a Madonna was thrusted upon her. Malena's wearing black is not an unconscious directorial choice. This is the first time that we see Malena in all black, but it won't be the last. Her father receives an anonymous letter that reads, "You're dishonored. Your daughter Malena is sleeping with the whole town." Since the death of her husband, the townswomen feel comfortable gossiping more freely about Malena's activities, which led to false allegations and a charge brought against her by one of the townswomen as an adulteress and homewrecker. And from here, the envy, the lies, the disgrace that have deprived her of even her father's trust. She's being ostracized by the town's marketplace. Hungry, she is left to barter her body for bread. In the debris of war, Malena's father is found. This is the second loss that Malena has endured. During the funeral procession, you can see that they're staring at her body, and even in moments of grief, she is objectified, dehumanized, relegated to a visual experience to be had. The act of cutting the hair is Malena's shifting point. She is letting go of her old identity and instead embracing her new self, the self that the entire town projected and cast onto her. Malena washes herself with water and lemon, cleansed and renewed as her new self. And this is the moment that she has entered her new life. We've finally reached the most iconic scene of the entire movie. Malena walks through the town square with an entirely new look. The first time she wears black for the grief and dark inner transformation she's undergone to assume this new identity and the scarlet red hair to match. The most obvious is in her eyes. This is the first time she actually makes eye contact with everyone in an act of defiance. She walks up to the cafe, pulls out a cigarette as the men rush to light it for her. A tear descends down her cheek because this is all she'll ever amount to in the eyes of people. And once that's discarded, she will have nothing and no one. The women drag Malena out to mercilessly beat her. The jealousy that ignited in their bellies turned into pure hatred. The scissors come out and they cut her hair off. Now let's see what the men make of you. As in, now that you don't have your beauty, your hair, now that you're bruised and beaten, now that we've stripped you for the only value we placed on you, we stripped it from you. And it was the townswomen who projected their damaged self-esteem and envy of her beauty onto her and to her entire town. She was ill-fated as being irredeemable for her ultimate sin, her beauty. After her fall from grace, her husband returns wounded and humbled, and Malena returns to her old ways of no eye contact and a demure aura. The same women who engaged in the violence against her comment on how she's aged and put on weight, while still acknowledging her timeless beauty. She's been beaten into submission, into conformity, while still retaining some semblance of herself. In some sense,
did you read all the stuff, the tattoos, blood in the vial? Jolie as not what the publicity leads us to think.
Completely redoing myself as a person, trying to figure out who I am all over again. Yeah, I'm actually a really shy person, and I'm really uncomfortable with people judging me and looking at me.
Angelina Jolie has suffered with depression for a very long time. Angelina's choice on characters are often dealing with a lot of inner turbulence.
Full of things. and I understood what love was with her.
She was so impulsive and so open and so bold and
saying that she carries the characters she plays inside her. In some sense, they reflect her misery or her inner battles. It's really hard for people to imagine that someone with ethereal beauty can be so devastatingly hopeless.
Found outside of her apartment building on 42nd Street on Sunday morning.
She held both an MBA and a law degree. Reading through some of the comments on her TikTok and Instagram, people could not bring themselves to believe that someone with beauty, status, and riches could commit this act of self-annihilation. She sent her mother this devastating text on the eve of her end. By the time you get this, I won't be alive anymore.
Monroe. Fame is fickle. And I know it. It has its compensation, but it also has its drawbacks. Fame is also a burden.
And in the same ways that the beautiful are burdened by the perceptions of others, because in reality fame is fueled by beauty and beauty ignites fame. Just as the famous are canvases that we as a society project onto based on the media's inclinations. While I won't go into details on each of these, it's important that I recognize that there are absolutely privileges that come with the gift of beauty. And to deny that would to deny half of my point, for how can there be a dark side if there isn't a bright side? According to some research, society perceives beautiful people as happier, more successful, wealthier, healthier, and more intelligent, which in turn oftentimes creates the positive feedback loop of a happier and more successful person. But what often isn't discussed is that pretty privilege is a double-edged sword, with the assumptions that society projects onto beautiful women. Those beautiful women now have to live up to that ideal, the fantasy of an elusive beauty that withstands time, which is simply not possible. Their beauty is perceived as having a divine quality, one that will endure time. But the reality is we all age, we all become weaker, and we are all destined for the same end. And the message here is to behold people as they fully are,